Hello, hello, welcome back to the City Till We Die podcast. It's another preview pod, this time, as I have been for the last few episodes, bar the immediate last one, joined by Billy Dunthorne. Billy, we're both kind of like, I thought we'd be a bit more smiley because we're about to preview Norwich City's campaign, but here we are. It's a bit different to the last one. The last one with Connor, overview, transfers, injuries. We're not going to get into that. Some of it is almost unavoidable at times, but it's a predictions pod. It is. I don't think I personally have done a podcast like this where you almost potentially nail yourself to a cross. It's always fun to go back, and I'm sure it will be extra fun to go back and look at our predictions. But we've got a little bit of a formula ahead of us. We are going to do our best to be realistic, but also to dream big. Connor on the last pod said head in the clouds, feet on the firmly on the ground, but we'll see where we end up. Lots to talk about. We're going to try not to take up too much of your time, but we're going to sit here and we're going to get excited. You said to me, didn't you, Bill? You said quick pod first, done, next. So I'm
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
forward to see what your predictions are.
I mean, just to caveat, I think me and you are in that sort of privileged position, I guess, where this isn't our job, right? So we aren't going to be held to the same level of accountability that maybe like Cobra and Pinkin is, or et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, let's get excited.
Yeah, I often feel like when recording a video or podcast or whatever, who cares? Say what you want. People like Connor Pad, Adam, and the other professionals, like you look at Radio Norfolk, Gorham and Butler, they've got to behave. Those guys' words, they're often held to account for, whereas let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens. So to confirm,
I think on that as well, like I think your mate Connor got a little bit of a dig from Monk, didn't he, in the press conference? If I remember, I think there was something of people question maybe the Pink and Connor for how they how critical they were of players before foot conference. So I don't
that is
know.
like nightmare fuel.
Hopefully we don't get that same treatment.
Can you imagine that though? Oh my God. When you're saying all right to Big Phil at Wimbledon, imagine if he turns around, Bill, what have you been saying about my boys? What would
Yeah,
you do? I'd crumble. I don't know what I'd
that's
do
why
if
that's
Big
why
Phil,
that's why I was scared to go over because yeah they
just in case he's been watching. Oh, we're already off the rails. So to confirm our running order, we are going to go for a handful of predictions, not too many. So we're going to start with our player of the season. And then we're going to go through to the breakthrough player. You sort of talk me down from from the edge of young player of the year award, but it's a very young squad, and I feel like breakthrough player, it's almost like a glorified most improved player. But we'll pretend it's not that because that is the dreaded footballing award. We'll predict our top goal scorer, Norwich City's league position, and then the curveball, Bill, which I want you to think about in the background, is the away day that you're most looking forward to. I feel like there's an easy answer. I'm going to go for the easy one. So when we get there, I'll sort of jump in first and disrupt you. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to expect from the opening, because Norwich City, we'll briefly touch upon it, smashed MK Dons in the cup. When previewing the game, it kind of felt like, well, this is a Norwich City that, despite having a few injuries, should really breeze past Norwich City fan Paul Warne. That's what you have to say. It's a bit like Frank Lampard's Derby County. Norwich City fan Paul Warne and his MK Dons side, it felt like it was, inevitable, but to actually see Norwich City put in that performance is exciting. And actually, I feel like it's more interesting and endearing almost to record this video after that. Now we've had a little glimpse of Norwich in that nice new home shirt battering someone and seeing those big names that we fell in love with last season score some goals and get us excited. So, Bill, player of the season, I'm not quite sure whether you want to just dive straight in with who you think it'll be, or maybe give us a flavour of who you think will be up there. The most recent winner of the award, in terms of the fan voted element, was Kenny McLean, thoroughly deserved. Do you think he's in with a sniff again this season, or do you foresee other events unfolding?
yeah, the latter. I was thinking about this because I think we're in a unique situation where we don't have like a a sort of a key star, so to speak. And I think in recent seasons, and I'm not going to name them because some of them, have sort of quite negative reputations in Norfolk at the minute. But I've gone to the player who I think is our best player. Not the most sort of not necessarily the one who's going to score the most goals or the one that we're going to sort of sell the most. I think in terms of their current level, I think this player is at their top of their game, and I think that's Jose Cordoba. Now, picking a centre back for the season maybe is a little bit, is a little bit risky in the sense that they'd have to have probably one hell of a season to get named it. But I just think if there was any player who could step into the Premier League, maybe even European football tomorrow, I think it's Jose Cordoba. I think he's got absolutely everything. I can go for his attributes in terms of just how good they are, but also I think he has that sort of unique ability of being a sort of centre half. He's absolutely rapid upon recovery. He's a great passer of the ball. He's strong. He's good in the air. He's got absolutely everything, and I think he will. In sort of 6 to 12 months' time, we'll be looking at Jose Cordoba and going, "Wow," as if he played for Norwich City Football Club. Unless we obviously, achieve what we want to achieve this year. I just think he's the best player at the football club, and it's as simple as that.
Isn't it bizarre that 12 months ago, if I feel like we're going to say this about a lot of the players, if we sat here and said, right, we're going to end the season strong, we're going to look at what is hopefully going to be a playoff campaign, and your player of the season is going to be Jose Cordoba. I don't know. I think we'd have been sat here shaking our heads, almost laughing. But when you said Jose Cordoba, in my head, I was thinking, I could just U-turn here and say someone like Cordoba, but I completely agree. And actually, I'm trying to think who the last defender was that won it. Maybe it was Seb Basong. I don't know if there's been one since then, but that was a very defensive season where his qualities as a defender really shone. I actually think Cordoba's got more to his game, like you say. He's obviously rapid and wins his headers, but progressing the ball and setting Norwich City up for whether it be sort of a penetrating ball over the top through the middle to unleash Toure or a winger, or whether it's taking it round your attacker. And I'm sure he's going to be almost heart attack material at times with the way he loves to just dribble at attackers, no matter how many there are running towards him. Actually, ball progression is such a strong element to his game, and having, as you say, that natural left-sided player doing that helps Norwich not just set but maintain the tempo of the football that they're going to want to play under Big Phil. And I can definitely get behind that. For me, and where I thought you might go, so I'm kind of glad you haven't, because it means our answer isn't the same. But I can really just see this being Pelle Matson's season. I am so in love with Pelle Matson, so much so that I've tried to copy his hair. I've just not quite gone for the bleach blonde look. He has absolutely everything. And in this pre-season, I don't think he's particularly stood out the way he did when he started to find his form under Clement. But I mean that in the sense of he's picked that bar up off the floor and raised it so high that actually we expect the best from him. Both sides of his game is so strong. Defensively, he's not afraid of a challenge. He's so clever with the way he wins fouls, both in the defensive third, but also the attacking third. I think of, I can't remember when it was, February or March time against Coventry. I think it was Ahmed's goal or something, but he used his body to almost potentially draw a foul. I think the advantage was given, but he drew in the defender, created the space, and having your, I don't even know what I'd call him, your number 8, number 6, 7.5, able to do that at both ends of the pitch, whether it's win you that foul to relieve you a little bit of pressure or to get you through on goal, is such a solid, strong option, and his passing range is good and it's getting better. Again, I mentioned the word tempo. He's so pivotal to Norwich City setting that, and actually, and this will link to the breakthrough player, but with Kenny McLean, who I love, and like a lot of Norwich fans maybe have had a bit of almost a love-hate relationship with at times. I completely love him now, but longevity-wise, he might feel and look the fittest he's ever felt. But Norwich City need to think, right, who's next? And I know they're playing together, but actually, McLean is more than just technical ability, isn't he? He's leadership. He's that mental element of the game. If Pelle Matson can learn that off him as well, which he already looks like a pretty strong candidate for. I think he was handed the armband in whatever game it was towards the end of last season.
Mm.
What a player.
And it's interesting you say Palamatson because I kind of categorize this squad in that, the top tier. If we're doing one of those tier lists you see on Twitter or, YouTube, the top tier for me is can they play Premier League football tomorrow? And that's kind of how I judge it. And I think the two players who I'd put in that category for absolute certainty right now, and you almost feel like there isn't really much more for them to improve on at this level, Palamatson and Jose Gordon. So I'm glad that we've gone for the different the two different options, but I think they're both really strong candidates. So I could absolutely see a world where Palamatson is collecting that trophy at the end of the season because I think he is the other one of the two who yeah, they could step it up and play, European football tomorrow, in my opinion.
Well, one of the almost concerns we had almost at the beginning of the Manning tenure and almost a little bit towards the end of Thorpe's time was who are our sellable assets? Who can we look at as players that we can rely on the income from their inevitable transfer? We've always had that, haven't we? In the conveyor belt at Norwich under Daniel Farker, especially, there was always two or three players that you thought would mean we would never, one, financially be in too much bother, but two, be able to sell and reinvest back into the squad. And Pella Matson's almost sadly to a degree, Pella Matson and Cordoba sit pretty high on that list.
Are you worried? Or are you surprised? Maybe it's about. Are you surprised that there hasn't been more interested in them too? Because I agree. I don't think we've got that standalone, obvious sort of starlet right now. But I mean, even Cordoba, played really well at the World Cup. I am surprised that there hasn't even been more rumours around these two.
I suspect it's round the corner. Pelamats, I'm not massively surprised because he's had 6 good months at Norwich and he's not really played internationally. Cordoba, absolutely. I think left-footed centre backs are probably far more sought after than, bless him, I love him, but someone like Pella Matson. I would imagine we're 5 good months away from, or 4 good months away from 5 good months away from January. And the teams, the big boys sniffing around because he's 25 years old. You kind of feel like if that move's ever going to develop or potentially unfold, it will be at the age of around 25, 26, 27. And as you say, you're spot on. I can envisage both of them playing in the Premier League. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's, not too far in the distant future, but you also then, we're really in dream territory here. You've got to hope that, for example, say we get to January and we're doing really well, and the Premier League teams or from teams from afar come sniffing around, that Norwich are in a strong enough position, and Clement has got a tight enough grip on his star players. What's his name? Darlin Yongwa, and Phil Clement with his comments almost softly launching a European attempt by saying that at Lorient he was never going to get European football, so he came to Norwich. So dream big is all I'd say. But I love both of those players so much, and actually my little comment at the beginning of we might be laughing at ourselves. I really don't think we will be. I just hope that with anyone who's going to leave, we don't have another horrible case of the Nunez, the Rowe, the Sergeant. We don't want that at all, do we? Breakthrough, Bill. Talk to me. Who are you feeling?
See, it's really interesting that you went with Habermas and you teed me up pretty perfectly, to be honest, because you kind of spoke about Kennedy McLean and how it feels like at some point that has got to give. It kind of feels maybe a little bit like when Alex Tate was here. At some point, someone's got to overtake him. My mild take, because I don't think it's that hot. I think Jacob Wright will start the season. Sorry, I think he'll finish the season as a sort of nailed on starter. And I think that'll probably be in the place of Kane McLean. I don't think it's there yet. We kind of saw glimmers of it during pre-season where, there's a lot of talk about the shape that Jacob Wright has come back in, fought against MK Dons. Anyone who went to that game is absolutely superb. He basically plays the false nine. So, he's kind of proven me wrong in the sense that maybe he can play a little bit further forward as well. But I think his main position is like I say, that sort of number 8, number 6, number 8 kind of role that we have going on. And I just think now it's now or never for Jacob Wright. I really do. And you could easily go for a Schwarzhout, but it kind of feels like he maybe already breaking through. He's pretty much nailed on to start. Baker Sene, maybe another candidate, but again, it's kind of played a fair amount of football, and it's maybe arguably, a starting left back. I just think Jacob Wright, he struggled to nail down the position, and I just feel like at some point throughout this sort of calendar football year, he'll be on that sort of starting 11 as a nailed on starter.
I almost want to. Jacob Wright was my first thought, but I thought in the interest of bit of I don't know, bit of variation in what we say. I'm looking at breakthrough as for the wider league in general. So players that we're familiar with, of course, we know will play well because the only ones really you could say would be breakthrough would be like a Bruno Alves who was just signed or an Andre Brooks. But I want to say Rory McConville. He's broken through to us, and we obviously know who he is and what he's about. But I feel like when I say breakthrough, I think by the end of this season, touch wood, providing he can stay fully fit, the whole league are going to be very familiar with Rory McConville as, and I don't think he's going to play every minute of every game, but as just a very, very young, very rock solid option. Me and Connor were raving on the last pod about having three centre back options for the first time in probably our lifetimes. Norwich City are there, and McConville for me. I think Harry Darling's had a good pre-season. I thought the back end of last season he was really good as well. But there's just something about McConville that's so composed and calculated, and again, his age is firmly on his side. He's so commanding in the air and on the ball. You can really see the progression that's been made, which is I feel so assured with him and Cordoba at the back and having a defensively solid Norwich is going to be important to the season ahead. I'm just trying to think of honourable mentions as well. It's so tricky, isn't it? Because like for your younger players, you want to say your Mo Torres, your Jovan McCarmas, but these are players that I think the league are particularly familiar with at this point.
No, definitely. I mean, I'm kind of looking at the squad now. I think Alves is an honourable mention, although I don't think I think he'll do well to displace, like, say, those three centre halves. Who, the first time, I think, you know, shout out to Chris Reeve from CNC. Like, I think he said it a few times on their podcast that we don't have a donkey in defence. And to be honest, I completely agree with that. The amount of years I've watched this football club where, like, even under Farker, you go, Zimmerman and Godfrey, like, it was a little bit sort of skew whip and it was kind of gluing it all together. Whereas, like I say, Rory McConville had an unbelievable end to last season, and I don't think anybody was going, "Oh, that's the position that we need to improve on." Yet pre-season happened, and all of a sudden, maybe Darling's ahead of the pecking order, and McConville's got to push even harder. And that competition is spurring everyone on. So yeah, I think it does look like he's going to start with Darling and Cordoba as the sort of centre back pairing. But I don't think that's a bad thing, and I think, like I said, I've got no doubt McConville will get a fair whack of football this season. One player I would like to see maybe sort of stamp his authority a little bit more is Papa Diallo. I think we're crying out for a left winger. Hopefully it's a bit of business we do. But yeah, sort of struggled last season, fitness and injury and consistency that really brightened his debut against Watford. I'd like to see him sort of show that he can play 30, 40 games of championship football and really, prove himself that was a good piece of business. Because, I mean, you said Andre Brooks. The thing is with Brooks, he comes with expectation. He's always coming in as a starting option, isn't he? We paid £9 million for him. There's no sort of bedding in period. If he doesn't, have a strong season, it will be considered a failure. So yeah, I think that's sort of a few fair shouts, to be honest.
Yeah, and you mentioned his name already, but Ben Cresceni, we had our game of keep play and sell, didn't we? And when we spoke about left backs, it was can they stay fit? Sadly, bless his heart, Lucien Mahova, it's really not gone his way. And Ben Cresceni, my fingers and toes are as a 27,000 others at Carrow Road. Times that by 4 because we've all got, or 10, we've got loads of fingers and toes. A bit too many sometimes. If he can stay fit, he looks like a really good option. Going forward, he's so powerful. I wouldn't say he's rapid, but the way he runs, I can't think of I think of like Mitchell Dykes, where he's not quite as big as Dykes, but he runs with such power. He's so consistently quick. It's not like he accelerates quick and then loses pace. But I feel like he's really developed under Clement. And again, I think he's 22 years old, 23 years old.
I don't.
These are young guys.
I think the interesting thing about Koscielny is, like, he's another one there. You'd expect him to start the season at left back, but he's got this 25-year-old who's just come from the top league in France, who doesn't come here to sort of sit on the bench. And I think hopefully it kicks on Cristiano and he does become, you kind of hold him in the same bracket as Fisher, because I think there's a real talent there. Again, left footed, really good technically. His physical attributes are insane, and I think they impress me more and more kind of each season, to the point where you kind of go, could he sort of play, you know, playing centre back in terms of he kind of has that build, doesn't he? But I think whilst he's still at this age, I think he'll continue to develop it, and I could see a really strong season. I think is it his would it be his third full season with the club now, if I'm right? Because we brought him on the front, didn't we? So, you kind of hope that he now really kicks on. I think the big thing for Ben Costanley is can he stay fit? Because obviously his partner Lucy Mahoba hasn't been able to do that, which is why I bring in Darwin Yongwa. But yeah, I could also see a big season from Ben.
Yeah, and an honourable mention, and we're not going to go down the Mate Eurosec route, is potentially Matthias Fiskaren. Hold my hands up. When we spoke about him at the end of last season, it was a case of good player, not the right player, but that narrative has almost been flipped on its head, and actually that diversity that he brings to Norwich's front line looks like it can be a strength. He's had a really good pre-season. Ben Napper has sort of said this is, so it's Ben Napper, but it's Clement. This is the fittest he's been at Norwich. Obviously, when almost mitigating why he hadn't performed quite as well, it was he's injured, he's crocked, he needs a bit of rest, he needs whatever. He seems to be fit. He took a bit of a knock against MK Dons, but that looked like someone just like, I don't know, sort of elbowed him in the back or something. But he's got a real chance to break through. And with Makama still injured at the minute, I don't quite know where we are with his journey. And the fact that Torre will not play every minute of every game, and Antti Sienats, again, could be a breakthrough player. Don't quite know if he'll fit into that category or not. But there's a chance for him to offer something Norwich a little bit different, and to get himself some goals, and actually prove his worth by more than just scoring goals. I think of St Gallen and the role he played against them, and the other preseason games so far, where I think Fulham's a good example, where he cut the ball back for Slimane, and actually playing that kind of role where I almost likened him to Timu Puki a little bit too much, where he's not your conventional number 9 in the Championship, and he's actually quite small, but he's got a little bit of pace about him. Actually, Pookie had that other side to his game where he encouraged and helped things happen. So hopefully he can do that. Any other honourable mentions that you can think of
I just,
before we?
I just think there's probably, I think we all, when you have a starting 11 of players, you get there almost like that is the set start 11 to start the season. But then there is this sort of second team, if you like, of individuals where you go, it feels like it could go either way. And I think Eurosec's one of them, I think Wright's one of them. I think you've mentioned Sinats, the Biscard, and Diallo. The list goes on, and you just hope that they can kind of raise that floor a little bit, and we can have almost 2 11s of real strong sort of talent and ability, because that is what is going to need. We're going to need it to get out of this league. There's no doubt about it.
We've not even mentioned like Paris Magoma or Anis Ben Samani, really. You sort of said his name, but we've not really spoken about Oscar Schwartau. I'm gutted we're not going to be able to talk about Ali Ahmed. His injury is so unlucky, and actually, for the data nerds, his numbers look really positive, and you could see that he maybe just needed a bit of a rest, which he would have had between the World Cup, kind of, and now. But sadly for him, that hasn't quite worked out. But those 3 players I mentioned before him, massive names at Norwich City at the minute. Anis Ben Slimani is the sort of revival of his career here. I'm not quite sure I've ever seen anything quite like it. And again, he's like 24, 25 years old. Like, I think he's only ever so slightly older than Magoma, and we're looking at Magoma as this prodigy who, by the way, Magoma has looked really good in preseason. He's looked really fit and really sharp as well. But it tells you about the depth that Norwich City have. I really don't, I'm not sure you quite meant it that way, but I don't think we have a nailed on 11. I think there is that rotation that is not almost rotation for the sake of it, but very practical, very easy to flick to and from. I think Crescene and Yongwa on the left-hand side are going to both have pivotal roles to play. You look at the middle of Matson, McLean, Wright, Topic when he comes back from injury. You've then got an entire front line of Makama, Toro, Fiskar, and Sienats, Diallo, Eurosec, Schwartau, Samani, Magoma. Forgive me for the names that I've Brooks for the names that I've left out there, but if we can keep 80% fit, that's a really settled, strong squad. Top
Definitely,
scorer.
100% agree. Top goal scorer. Or now this is interesting because I'll let you into a bit of a secret, Ben. I'm not a gambler, man, and I don't, endorse or advocate for, those kind of behaviours, especially not in football. However, I just today placed two bets, and I'll let you into the secret of one of them, and I'll tell you the other one later. I put money on Mo Toure to be the league's top goal scorer, which obviously would be he would be Norwich City's top goal scorer. I just I don't know. I'll be honest. I wasn't entirely convinced that this was a player who could sort of sustain this level of form. I think we spoke about it last season. It felt sort of purple patch vibes. It felt like, oh, the ball's just falling to me and I've had to put it in the net. But just seeing him against MK Dons and obviously gone to the World Cup, it then struggled a little bit, didn't quite get the service. So he looked quite isolated out there. And then all of a sudden he comes back to Carrow Road and you see the link up with Brooks and Slimani and you see the runs in behind. And I, I, I don't know if it was because he was wearing a long sleeve shirt. He almost looked a bit more sort of like he's come on a bit more physically as well. Like he just, I just think he's absolutely phenomenal. And he is, for me, our best number 9 currently, even if McCarver comes back fit. I just think he's an out and out goal scorer. And I think I think he'll score 20, 25 goals a season, maybe even more. And I really feel like this is the season for Mo Toure. And, you then start to put him in that upper bracket that I just mentioned, called by Matson. And only, like we keep saying, he's 22 years old. It's, this isn't a guy who's 28, 29, 30, right hitting his peak. This guy is you could almost call him a wonder kid still, It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I think as Norwich fans, we kind of forget just how young some of these players are, especially, someone like Mo Toure. So, yeah. What else? What can I say? The guy is just phenomenal.
It's hard to disagree. I think I'll maybe phrase it slightly softer with the end. By the end of last season, it felt like the challenge for him was can he replicate anything at all like what we'd already seen? And as you say, that opener against MK, I mean, he should have had at least 2. That 1-on-1 he missed was pretty horrendous, and I hope he learns the lesson that actually, Mo, just blast it. Don't try and do the weird, cute little things. I don't quite think that's his game. He looked like he was moving a little bit more freely as well, because he had that little knock, didn't he? And he came back, and it almost felt like he's quicker than what his body can keep up with. And the challenge with him is how can we constantly exploit defenses with his pace without him like tearing muscles in his legs
Yeah.
all the
Don't
time.
say it, Ben. Don't say it. Like
Touch wood.
God.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
I've got a wood desk. We're fine. For me, hand of Jove, Big Mac. He's nailed on top goal scorer. I can picture like an 18 with a couple of 11s and 12s around him. I bizarrely, I more so want to shout out who I think will be the second top goal scorer. I think Anis Ben Samane is going to score like 14. That's just in my mind. I don't know how many assists he'll get, but I can just picture him. I can't even really see him starting many games, but just coming off the bench and just scoring some really important, almost like a Vrancic type role, where in the second season, where he just comes off the bench and scores a handful of really important goals. But for me, Big Mac's nailed on. When he gets fit, he's going to be unstoppable. I do disagree with. I think Mo Toure is the best striker. I think he's a brilliant option, but let's not forget how good Makama was. I genuinely think as a footballer, he's better and technically probably a bit more natural. But actually, if you combine the two of Mo Toure's just blast it brain and Makama's technical dribbling ability, you'd have the best striker in the world. But Norwich are lucky enough that they can split that across 2 players.
It's definitely an embarrassment of riches, and I think I don't. It's almost like you wander into that territory of me arguing against McCarver. I think McCarver is absolutely brilliant, and I could wax lyrical about him as well. In terms of, I think the thing with McCarver is there was that period, wasn't there, during the World Cup where everyone was going, "Oh my God, who's going to replace Harry Kane in the next few years?" Well, I'm sorry, but in terms of, I'm not saying it.
I know exactly what you mean. It's fine.
If you look at like how Liam Delap signed for Chelsea, for crying out loud. Like, I'm not saying McCarver, it's not hard to do when you're that build and you're English and you're young and you've got everything. So No, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Joe from Makama. I would maybe say that as a natural goal scorer, maybe Motori's got more about that as game, and I think Makama will play such a vital role. I do worry with sort of wandering into 100 points, 100 goal kind of territory when we're talking about Slimani with 14 and Jovan with 18. I'll put Notori for 25. So
No, with his 30, yeah.
yeah,
You with your 500
no,
quid back from that horrible bet. Do you remember when we had the issue with Sargent and who we're going to replace him with? And look at us now. We're talking about two really good strikers. Another one we think can have a breakthrough, and one back from an ACL. So, Bill, before we get too bogged down into, as you say, 100 points, 100 goals. And actually, now I say that, I think if we're going to definitely get bogged down into points because it's league position time. It feels like the big one. Just to set the parameters, the extension of the playoffs and entry into the playoffs has gone down to 8th place. We aren't going to get into a political argument about that because, well, it wouldn't be an argument between us. I think we both just say it's very silly, but here we are. Top 8 for Norwich is doable. Where do you see, as we sit here and record this on Tuesday, the 11th of August, before we had too many injuries and transfers, where do you see Norwich City finishing, and maybe what do you define as success?
well, yeah, I think you like you said, top 8 feels like the bare minimum for me in terms of where this project has been leading to. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because as a fan of Norwich, and I think when you support your club, for me, I think most fans probably get carried away at this point in the year. And I've sort of thought about this long and hard, and over the last few days, that all the 1 to 24 predictions have come out, and there's a lot of garbage within that, But there are two sort of EFL pundits that I sort of value their opinion and judgment quite a lot, and that this isn't sort of selection bias or anything like that. But the two I would say are the Not the Top 20 podcast, George and Ali, and also Gabriel Sutton. And I think Not Top 20 had us at third, and Gabriel Sutton had us second. And it's interesting because I'm sat here thinking this could be a really special season for Norwich. I just feel like all the stars are aligning. The project has kind of been building up to this now. And we've got, an elite head coach in Philippe Clement. We've got a group of young players who've been developing really nicely. We've been speaking about the development all podcast. So I think the safe answer is probably somewhere between 8th and 6th. I think if you're feeling a little bit optimistic, you could probably push that up to 4th. And this is the second bet I placed earlier today, I think, well, the bet was for Norwich to finish in the top 2. I think we'll finish second. And that is a hopeful sort of, their prediction, but like I say, we're not paid journalists, so who cares? I just feel like I've got a really good feeling about this season. I think it's going to be generational. You've got me on Instagram. That's what I said. 26, 27 is going to be a generational season. I think it's one of those that we'll look back on really fondly. Of course, it could all come crumbling down, right? I'm very much aware that this is a possibility, but it was really interesting listening to those predictions, especially the not top 21, because actually you think every other club's got it figured out, and they kind of haven't. Like Southampton have got points deduction. West Ham, all right, yeah, they've got Jared Bowen, but I think that's why this group is so special, because it's built on a system. It's built on Philippe Clement is leading the charge. It's not built on like an Emi Buendia or a Gabriel Sara or Josh Sargent. It's built on the collective, and I just think this collective, we've been talking about it all podcast, it's so strong. I think we're going to finish second in the league.
I respect that. I might not put the bet on for second, but no, I respect it. I respect it. And actually, your point that this is not just a couple of individuals; it's a collective. And yeah, when was the last time that we almost based an entire season off of our team? And the point rather than a couple of individuals, and the point I made earlier of being able to rotate the squad and still feel like we can put in a really good performance and not almost worry about how we're going to have to tweak how we play. under Farker, we were a good team, but when you took Buendia out, we really struggled. I don't massively see, especially towards the back end of last season, you take one of the start, well, when like Schwartau got injured, or when Torre picked up a knock, or whoever, you didn't massively see Norwich struggle. Even to a degree, and not that he missed any games, or many to say the least. Like Kenny McLean, like the heart of the midfield. It's such a unique position to be in. I want to say I really respect second, and I'm hoping for second. And I do not think you're mad at all for sticking that bet on, because, like you say, respect, not just us, and to take the yellow and green glasses off, respected sort of pundits, journalists, all see Norwich City as the club that we've been in the Championship. They, as you say, we're settled. We've got, for me, comfortably the best manager in the division. You've got on, and you're going to have a packed out Carrow Road every other week. You're going to have away ends that are always really full. You've got such a loyal following. You've got a squad that have had a full summer together, sprinkled in with a couple of nice little signings. As you say, there are clubs at the minute that are in flux and are vulnerable. And there's almost that key list. And those listening or watching, please put in the comment section who you want to add to this list. But you've got your West Ham, your Wolves, your Burnley coming down from the Premier League, who we know how difficult that is. We've done it far too many times. You've got sort of your Middlesbroughs and your Birminghams and your Wrexhams and your Millwalls, who were up there last season and have that bit of money to spend. Money not so much for Millwall, but again, they are as dangerous as a Wrexham or Birmingham. I mean, they finished higher than last season, for goodness sake. And then you've got your Southampton, who have a very good, for as controversial as he is for his actions, have a really good manager, and that might change, leading them, and a really strong squad. There is so much competition, but I don't know. For me, what they don't have is that unity, on and off the pitch. They don't have that Premier League class and beyond manager. They don't have that complete squad, and Norwich City have that. And I'm sure the Championship is going to do what it always tries to do to good looking teams, which is strip them bare with injuries and circumstances that make things difficult. But second really wouldn't be too far off where I'm thinking, and it's not. I think we'll finish fourth. I would have been happy with if obviously if the Championship playoffs had stayed the same. I'd have been happy with sixth, fifth, fourth, third, whatever. But I think top eight is, as you say, bare minimum. Norwich City need to achieve that. I also comfortably think we will. I don't think it'll be should and or will Norwich finish top eight. I think they will. For me, it's bypassing that weird little round. The pre, what do you call them? Like the quarterfinals? Do you want to call them that? Of the playoffs. I want to skip that and get straight into classic playoff football. But I really wouldn't be surprised if Norwich do very well. I think Connor made the comparison in the last pod, but look at Coventry and Frank Lampard and the turnaround from where he picked them up from and took them to. And actually, they didn't spend they spent a decent bit of money for the Championship. Might have even been before Frank Lampard, but for what they had and what they spent compared to what they then achieved, it's doable. It's more than doable. The Championship is always going to be a slog. And actually, I thought the quality of the Championship last season wasn't very good at all. But I have no doubt that if you go back and look at all the preview pods for the Championship last year, everyone would be saying what they're saying now. Oh, it's a tough league. Look at this team. Look at this team. It's not about other teams and how they perform. It is about how united you are, how you play as a team, how you can face up to any challenges that get thrown your way. I think Norwich City are in a really, really strong position to make that case for a top four finish. And it's hard to not get too, I don't want to say carried away, because it's almost, I feel like it downplays what I feel like Norwich can achieve by making it sound silly. But it's hard to not think that the sky is the limit for this Norwich City team. And Philippe Clement, almost, said this at the back end of last season as well. The challenge is for him, because he hasn't quite had that chance to properly build at a club yet, beyond his time in Belgium. Norwich City are giving him that, and I fully feel like he will take advantage of it. And obviously from his darling Yuan, I've already forgot his last name, Yuanda comments. He clearly has the belief. Belief is not in short supply at Carrow Road, and yeah, I can foresee some fun times ahead.
Yeah, and listen, I'm very aware that second is probably pushing it, but I just it was really interesting listening to, and shout out to not the top 20, because there's a lot of sort of guesswork in sort of football punditry and journalism, and I think I don't pretend to be an EFL expert, but those guys certainly are. And it was fascinating them talking about where West Ham are even coming from, for example. And I can definitely foresee a situation where like West Ham, that stadium gets toxic with everything that they've got going on with the demands and expectations. Anything else other than sort of first position for that fan base is going to be not good enough. Wolves, all right, yeah, they do look dangerous, but I mean, 35-year-old Raul Jimenez and Kieran Trippier, it's like it feels like this project's on the up. The other sort, and I don't want to get too bogged down in other teams, but I think there is something to be said about teams in the Championship which have been building projects. You've spoken about Coventry there. I think Middlesbrough will be right up there as well. I think they'll be a tough nut to crack. And I think I don't think anyone knows what to expect from Southampton in terms of how they'll fare. I just don't feel like we should really be worrying about anyone. I just think, which is a full belief in this, like you said, Philippe Clement that's been building something really special, and this is his opportunity to fully execute it where he hasn't maybe hadn't in previous sort of clubs and stuff. And it's just it's really exciting, and also like as a fan, if you can't get excited now, then I don't think you ever will. And yeah, I think you said it earlier, sort of head in the clouds, feet on the ground sort of thing. Because it just feels like, yeah, it feels like this is building towards some time where special. And I think we'll also see big leaps in development as well, like in terms of the individual players. A lot of individuals who have had a few seasons now to accommodate and adjust and sort of develop and build up and all that. And I think our average age is at 23 across the squad. Like this is a very young squad, but it is growing and it's developing. So um, I just cannot wait for the season. It's going to be difficult. We know what the Championship will bring, but if any of the sort of Napa regimes, Napa season, sorry, like in terms of regimes under different managers, were going to lead to promotion, I think it has to be this one.
It hinges on. I feel like Norwich will have a strong start. I think there'll be a wobble, but it and a strong finish. It really hinges on the wobble and how the players, the manager, the fans react. It could be like a Daniel Farker title-winning wobble, which is what, 2 draws and a loss or something, and then we're back on the straight and narrow. Or it could be more severe than that. But it is your classic Championship promotion campaign formula of we get to Saturday against West Brom, we win 3-0, 3-1, and we're all like, right, here we go. I think Norwich will be able to keep up that momentum, but the Championship will always suck you back in, regardless of who you are, what you believe in, what squad you've got, who your manager is, just anything that any component that makes up a football club and a football season. The Championship will look at you and go, right, I'm going to drag you back in as best I can, whether it be injuring half your squad or a bunch of results not going in your favour, whether that be other teams picking up points or you not doing so. There's always going to be something. And we saw it in both of Farker's title-winning seasons. Do you remember the first title-winning season and drawing to Reading at home when I think we were 1-0 down and we went 2-1 up and we were all like, right, we're going to do it. And then Reading scored. There's always them moments, but that squad had the iron to stand up to it and to actually the following game then back it up and get the points when they needed them. I'd imagine someone's going to get sent off this year in a really important game, and it'll be, can Norwich pick up a point from that game when they need to? And it's all to be seen, but exciting
And
nonetheless.
injuries as well. I think that's going to be a key thing. We've massively struggled with player availability in the last 2 or 3 seasons, and you hope that the worst ones are out of the way already in terms of Ahmed and obviously Fisher and McCallum picking up little knocks. There's also a few players like Diallo, Topic, Sinats all returning from sort of fairly, well, obviously Sinats and Topic's case very long term injuries. So player fitness and availability will be huge, and we've got to sort of keep, that sort of core group available. I do look through the sort of spine of our team though, and I think we've mentioned it already in terms of centre back options. We've got, say, Cordoba picks up an injury, you've got a centre back parent partnership of Darling and McConville. If McLean or Matson get injured, then you've got Wright to come in midfield, in number 10, Bagoma, Schwarzhaus, Lamane, and even Wright can play further forward. And then obviously up front, we've been arguing about Nakama or Torre, and this Gardner and Sinats to come in to the mixture as well. So throughout that's fine. I feel like we've got 3 or 4 options for every position, and I think that would pay dividends. Maybe we haven't had that in previous years. Maybe the one position, if I'm looking at this squad now, that I worry about in terms of hiccups is that right wing. Andre Brooks, can he stay fit? Because he looked exceptional so far in the glimpses I've seen, certainly in the MK Dons game. And then all of a sudden, we've mentioned him already, you're relying on a Mata Eurosecond. That doesn't feel like, that feels like there's a bit of a drop off there, with all due respect to Mata, and he's someone I really want to do well. So that's probably the only area, if I'm being honest, is that those wide areas that I look at and see a little bit of a weakness. So I think if we can, make a signing in those areas, that'd be great. Apart from that, though, I'm really hopeful.
Can I just say also, we are like massively due some luck. I feel like Norwich and lots of clubs have, but I don't care about any other club bar Norwich City. Rotten luck, absolutely. They're still having rotten luck. I feel like, and I know I've just said that the Championship will chew you up and spit you out. I feel like the Championship just needs to give us a little bit of a break, and if we can have that and keep a decently fit squad, because it'll never be fully fit, then as you say, the sky is in fact the limit. I am happy to call it there and go to our last question, which is the away day that you are most looking forward to. And to be honest, Bill, we're not going to hold you to account if you don't end up going on it. We aren't going to we're not going to hunt you down and be like, where were you? But for you, who is it? Because there's some, I mean, there's some slogs in there. I mean, for goodness sake, Norwich have just been drawn away to Cardiff on a Tuesday night, which when I did see that, my first thought was our dear friend Connor.
You know what? It's so funny you say that, because when I saw it as well, my first reaction was to go on Connor's Twitter and see his reaction, because he bangs on about hating to be away games all the time, doesn't he? Which he's probably in the wrong industry if he doesn't like traveling to football games.
Stupid boy.
But he's not in the wrong industry at all. But you get my point. I think
Yeah.
the Cardiff one's cruel, and I did feel for our South Pole there, because that's a bit of rotten luck, like I say.
So wait, so who do you fancy then? Sorry.
So in terms of the away game that would be most excited for, it would almost certainly have been West Ham, because I've got quite a big family contingent of West Ham fans. That I wouldn't say I have a second club at all, but I think because of that family connection, I'd always like to see them do well. A lot of my sort of cousins and uncles support West Ham, and obviously the move to Stratford means that it's fairly sort of close proximity. This slight issue with this obviously is it's obviously on Boxing Day, and convincing the missus to allow me to go to London for a football game on Boxing Day, when it's my son's first Christmas as well, might be a little bit of a test. So if I had to skip that one, it'd probably be the Lincoln one. Me and our friend Alfie Britcher have been talking about potentially trying to get to that one. That feels like that would be a good game as well. But if I could get to West Ham, I think I would enjoy that.
I don't appreciate you taking Lincoln from me. I was thinking he's not going to say Lincoln. I'm going to get that. I'm going to say it. Lincoln for me. West Ham was the one where you're licking your lips, aren't you? But Boxing Day, not a chance. To those who will go, fair play. You're far more hardcore than I, evidently. But Lincoln for me, I just love Lincoln as a city. It's just really nice. And I only did a couple last season, which were the last 2 games away. I've never been someone who really goes to many away games, but I'm almost looking to right that wrong. Bristol last year was really fun. I don't quite think if I go again this year, we'll get the same result, the random sort of 4-1 win where we blow them away in the second half. But Lincoln for me, such a beautiful city. It's almost like Well, it's like Norwich, in terms of the vibe and the aesthetic, and dare I say it, a little bit nicer than Norwich. For as much as I love our fine city, and I know I'm so sorry, my beloved home, but it's really nice, and hopefully I can get there. I mean, I'm looking at the championship table now. There are definitely some that I do not fancy. I feel like, I don't know, like your Birminghams, your Boltons, your Prestons. They're not through almost journey time, but they just feel like they're going to be a slog. Um,
Yeah.
but
And
one thing that, go on.
I, I, I was, living in London for like the best part of 2 years, and that was the best thing about living in London was getting to all the away games. Mill, QPR, Watford. Obviously spoke about my trip to Bolton recently as well. So that I'm a little bit gutted about that because I've made some great memories, even if the football didn't provide those great memories. Other aspects of the day did, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it'd be good to try and get to a few. I think Lincoln would be a good one, and people slag off West Ham Stadium, and I don't think it's great at all. But I just love that part of the world, to be honest. And it'd be great to get back there. But like say, Boxing Day, it's probably going to be a no go. But I mean, some of that you said about like the Prestons and the Blackburns, I mean, that is where you see the hardcore fans, isn't it? Because there's absolutely no way I'm sitting on the Times coach for 5 6 hours, whatever, to get up there. No, not a chance.
Well, we really are blessed as a football club, and it's not through luck. It's through, really dedicated, hard-working fans who are willing to put in those grueling miles so consistently, whether it be a Saturday at 3 o'clock or a horrible Saturday at 12:30. God, they must be grim. Or a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it is. Norwich City. Like, I was lucky enough to go on holiday to Switzerland and watch the St. Gallen. I think we had 30, 40 of us there, and the whole time the Norwich fans were singing, and in a really enjoyable way as well, not like a almost embarrassed to be a Brit abroad kind of way. We're really lucky, and I really enjoy that part of us. And the most important thing is we'll all be there Saturday against West Brom, Carrow Road, 15th of August. We're all buzzing to get back to a full capacity Carrow Road, everyone wearing yellow, everyone getting excited about the season ahead. That is very much what it's all about. But I love it as much in November when it's 8 o'clock on a Tuesday and it's absolutely heaving it down. And before you even get to the ground, your shoes are soaked through. I love it nonetheless. I was going to say it's almost like a disease, isn't it? It is a little bit at times, but it's a real blessing to love football this much. And hopefully,
We don't care about the weather in the top of the league, Ben. That's all I'll say.
yeah, that'll be the greatest umbrella we could ask for. Bill, it's been a pleasure getting excited about the
As
season.
always.
I really hope that as we do this over the next, I don't know, well, year, 9, 10 months, 8, 9, however long we do it for. I hope it's positive, and I hope we have lots of good things to talk about. I hope Norwich City can maintain the momentum that they began to build under Clement, and throughout pre-season have there's been a steady flow of it, I'd say. And it always feels like quite a sort of flag in the sand moment where it's like, all right, here we go. This is it. It feels like it's been forever, but really it's been a couple of months and a few holidays, and we're back, and we're ready to do it all over again. So thank you, Bill. It's been an absolute pleasure. To those watching, listening, thank you as always. Catch us across YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter, wherever you want to see us. Throughout the season, it'll always be all things Norwich City. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you soon.